Hi, I'm Sarah Cook and welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to show you today how to make a GFCF burrito in about 5 minutes. It's really simple to make with ingredients you should have in your kitchen. The first thing that we need to do is turn on our frying pan. It takes forever to heat up and we want this to be on medium-high heat. Now I'm used to making this. I make it about every night along with my family's meal because we are not GFCF, only my daughter is. Once you get used to doing this recipe yourself, you'll see how simple it is. This makes a single burrito. And I'm going to start with about half a cup of Bob's Red Mill gluten-free all-purpose baking flour. Trust me, that's about half a cup there. And I'm just going to eyeball it. And the second ingredient is about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Just throw that in there. Now I'm going to measure this. I don't want to get too much oil. You don't want it to be oily. So let's go with about 1/4 teaspoon of oil to 1/2 teaspoon. It's not a real fussy recipe, so if you get a little off in the ingredients, don't worry about it. It'll taste the same. Now before I add my water, I'm going to get my beans on. Now I just use the canned refried beans. That's very simple, makes it quick. But if for some reason you can't use these, or if you're on the SCD diet, you can't use pinto beans. We were doing the SCD diet for a while, so I made my own refried beans. And what I did, they weren't refried, what I did actually was take kidney beans. I let them soak overnight, and then I boiled them all day long on the stove. When they were nice and soft, I took them and put them in the blender with a little bit of garlic, a little onion powder, and a little cumin, and blended it, tiny bit of water. You could also, refried beans actually have bacon fat in them. But if you were going to make your own, you could try to sneak some EFAs in there, some essential fatty acids. And that wouldn't affect the taste too much and would add that sort of moist texture. Just blend them in the blender until they're nice and soft and you have your own refried beans, and my daughter loves them. Now I'm just going to stick this in this little cup. You can use a bowl, of course. Stick it in the microwave, and this is about 1/2 cup of beans. Use as much as you want. For about 30 seconds. And now back to the mix, I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of water, and more like 1/4 cup of water. And I use a fork to try to break up as many lumps as I can. Now the batter will sometimes be a little bit lumpy, and if you have a child that's really concerned about the lumps or has a problem with them, you could pour this through a strainer before you get it into the pan. I don't. My daughter eats this with a little bit of lumps in them. They cook out. You can't really taste them or see them. Now this is a real thin batter. I'm going to get a spoon so I can get around the edges. It's very thin. This is more like a crepe. Now if you look, I'm going to add a little tiny bit more flour to this because it's a little too wet. You don't want it as thick as pancake batter. If you can sort of see what that's like. If you measure, you'll get it right. And it does have some lumps. Now, if our pan is nice and hot, we're ready to go. It takes a while for this to heat up. I'm using a non-stick pan, so I'm not going to use any oil in it. Now the only problem is if you have a pan that's going to stick a little bit, it's okay to spray it down with a little bit of oil, but if you use too much oil, it'll make an ugly burrito, an ugly wrap, at least on one side. And just put that side inside, so they can't see it. It doesn't make any difference to the taste at all. It's just ugly. So I'm not going to use any oil. And I'm going to get my spatula ready because we're going to put it right away. And where's my spoon? All right, pour it in there, and as quick as we can, we're going to give it a little turn. Just turn it around with your wrist till it looks about like the size that you want it. And then put it on and just leave it alone for a few minutes. In the meantime, our beans are ready. Now at this point is where we can be a little sneaky. My child will not eat anything green or any vegetables, but you can be sneaky and get some in there so we have a good meal. This is, I serve this to her as a meal on its own. I don't add any vegetables or anything else to it because she doesn't eat them. So what I do is I buy some Gerber organic or any brand organic vegetables. Now remember, if you put too much in, they're going to taste it and they're going to reject it. So be sneaky. Just be cool. Add a little bit in there. And I'm just going to stir these up. Now at this time also, you could start adding your enzymes. If you want to sneak some zinc or, you know, whatever supplements that don't have much of a taste to it. You don't want something that they're going to taste. But these green beans will go just fine. All right, now this is about ready to flip. It'll look a little bit bubbly and it's not sticking to the pan at all. It's very white on this side. I'm gonna let it brown a little more on the other side, but that'll only take about 2 minutes. And now I'm gonna get my basket of supplements and add some enzymes. Well, I just let that go ahead and brown over there. It doesn't look that pretty with the green beans. It'll be okay. The wrap will cover all that up. And it tastes good. Okay, so we've got our enzyme in there. I'll stir that up. You could, of course, go ahead and sprinkle that on top of the refried beans. You don't want to sprinkle it on top of the burrito. See, this hides things so wonderfully. All right. I want to show you what the outside looks like. This is, you know, the lighter one here. That still looks pretty, but it doesn't have those nice little brown spots that I like. So I would leave this as the inside and see how close that looks to an authentic regular flour tortilla. It's just beautiful. Now we're still under 10 minutes. I'm just going to spread this out. Now I always put a little tiny drop of it at the tip to hold it. Now look at that. That's it. Now this is something easy that you can do.